Awesome. I think we are ready. Sonia,
Yes.
shall we start?
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Your turn.
Do you want me to
Yes,
introduce
please.
myself? Okay,
Yes,
great.
please.
Hello, good morning, everybody here in Glasgow, and hello to everybody watching in international locations. It's a great pleasure to be here. I'm Sonia Gibbs, Managing Director and Head of Sustainable Finance at the Institute for International Finance in Washington, D.C. And I want to thank Ebru for the wonderful invitation to be here with you today in the Turkish Pavilion. It's a real honor. Thank you so much. So before beginning the conversation with Ebru, I wanted to share with you some thoughts and perspectives on what's been going on in sustainable finance this year, and of course here at COP in Glasgow, where there are so many consequential negotiations taking place. This year, has had so many milestones in sustainable finance, so much development, a lot of work from the G20, their Sustainable Finance Working Group, from the international standard setters in the financial sector, from the central banks and supervisors network for greening the financial system, and national governments all over the world, including, of course, in Turkey. So these big topics of climate risk, ESG risk, as well as the many business opportunities that come from climate change are very global in nature and very much in focus here at COP in Glasgow. Banks and the international financial sector have such a responsibility for intermediating the financial flows that are going to enable the transition to a net zero future. And COP26 is such an important environmental summit. It's our, arguably our last and best hope of achieving international compliance with the Paris Agreement. So it's an important discussion that we're having here today. Many of you may have seen the report from the climate scientists in August, the IPCC report, which was nothing short of terrifying, right? If we stick with business as usual, meaning current climate policies at the national level, we are going to move rapidly past 2 degrees centigrade of global warming by 2030, and that's less than a decade away. And all of you know the consequences, Turkey, like so many other countries around the world, is facing already higher risk of floods, increasing water stress, land degradation, and it's the same for countries all over the world. It's time for action. And so we've got to continue this collaborative work to take this agenda forward. 2 big areas for the financial sector are the measurement and management of climate risk, so work on climate scenario analysis, stress testing for banks, ESG disclosure, all of these are big topics. And, very much in focus here at COP, a lot of steering of the financial sector to set ambitious climate targets, like net zero emissions, and to scale up sustainable investing. So these twin goals, very much in focus. And of course, the net zero agenda, reflecting the remarkable acceleration of this net zero target setting, the work of the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, or GFANZ, and all of its component parts, the Net Zero Banking Alliance, of course. And there's a lot more scrutiny, watching over transition plans and portfolio alignment. So in some jurisdictions, this could move into sort of a mandatory or legislative sphere. You will have seen an announcement from the UK government about mandatory reporting on transition plans. So it's really all taking off here. And then I'll just finish by saying that another big theme, of course, is scaling up climate finance for emerging markets. What do we need, from policymakers and regulators and borrowers, for private investors to scale up capital flows to developing economies? So much collaboration, efforts to de-risk this kind of climate finance and bring together private investors with the public sector, like the multilateral development banks, the World Bank, the EBRD. So how can all of these initiatives deliver on these plans to, say, for 100 billion annually, or much more, in climate finance funding for developing economies to support a just transition? So with that, I think, it gives a good feel for what is happening here at COP and has set the stage for our discussion today. So, Ebru, it's a great pleasure to be here.
Yes, thank you for coming, Sonia. It's
Yes.
great to be talking with you. You know, we were talking during pandemic, always on video, and
Yes.
somehow to be able to meet in person here, it was really good experience for me.
It is lovely. It's very interesting to see what people look like in real life.
In 3D.
And how tall they are. Yes, it's always a big change
true.
from on screen. So maybe, Ebru, could we start? Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about your role
Yeah.
at Garanti and how it intersects, with climate change.
Sure. You know, I'm in charge of corporate and investment banking in Garanti Bank and also covering sustainability. We have been investing in sustainability for the last 15 years. And everything has started with a project that we had an impact on the nature. And that day we have discovered that while financing, we should be very careful about the impact of the project, socially and also environmentally. And then that time we have established our risk processes and everything. And then we had the committee for sustainability. It has started with the environmental committee. That time environment was the top of the agenda. And also many companies was doing it for the corporate communication subject, let's say angle. But we were trying to do it to put in our core banking strategies and products. And since then I think we paved the way till here. And we do have so many things to deliver. In addition, my role for the bank, I'm also the chairperson of Sustainable Development Business Council for Sustainable Development Turkey chapter. And we have 80 members, more than 80 members. And we are trying not only corporate-wise what I'm doing in the bank, it's also for the community and for the other sectors, for the other business companies, what we are doing is important. And I think for the business world, for the new leaders, they should be taking actions not only with their responsibility and roles with that company, and also they need to take more strong position among the other sector. So this is how I see sustainability.
Well, maybe tell us a little bit about, when you think about the many, many things that a bank has to do, why should they care particularly about sustainability and
Yeah.
ESG?
Sure. 5 years ago, actually it was 6 years ago, the COP21 in Paris. That day, I think it was very important. First time the nations choose a way that sustainable path for our planet and our economy. And they have decided they need to somehow stick to the agenda, and it was the world's probably the first commitment. And then they put so many important targets to take actions. And with all of these, the SDG map has been somehow created. And on that SDG, to be able to make the SDG map, that was the key for the finance sector. Every year we need to have $5 to $7 trillion in the world for the investment. It's a tremendous number. And if you even go further in deep to some subject, like, for example, SDG 7, the energy. It had for every year, 7, the energy estimated every year is $1.3 to $1.4 trillion in the world. And if you go even deeper in the SDG 7, for some specific subject, 3 subjects, it's around $800 billion investment a year. And if you look at it also from the developing countries' view, it's around $2.5 trillion investment every year is needed. And out of which, unfortunately, we don't have so many investment are being realized. It's around $800 billion. And the remaining is still postponed to the other years. And who will be able to make that? The governments, they don't have the enough sources for that. Then the financing sector, they should be part of this project. I think that is the role of big banks and also financial institutions in the coming years to help to realize these SDGs immediately, because we don't have so much time. And if you look at what we have delivered in the last 5 years, 6 years, unfortunately not much. We were trying to have these investments, as I said, $2.5 trillion, whereas it has been 1/3. And if we were not able to do it in that time, then we need to speed up to be able. Then the investment needs are increasing. This is why I think the role of the banks are very important. This is why we approach it in that sense. And also in Turkey. Turkey is a developing country, and in a developing country, you need to have also a path for so many different subjects: energy efficiency, renewable, other infrastructure, agriculture, water, irrigation. We have so many subjects, and in order to focus on them, we need to have a more systematic way. And the banks should be also showing somehow the guidance for the real sector, and sometimes maybe for the state's entities as well. So we need to team up together. I also give so much importance for the SDG 17, the partnership. I think for the business world, for the last 2 years, 3 years, we have started to see the importance of partnership. When you do it with one hand, you can create something. When you do it in two hands, you can create something. This is why we try to somehow try to finance the project, bring the big picture for everybody. We are sharing it. The competition is not the time. We should not be competing. We should compete in a way to be able to deliver new products, new services, new partnerships, so that everybody will be somehow get something, and then they will try take actions as well. This is how we see it.
You make so many good points there, a couple in particular, that the challenges of turning commitments on paper into reality. I mean, it's a lot harder than, a lot easier to make the commitment than to realize it.
Exactly.
And so this kind of target setting and step-by-step approach is really crucial to making it happen. I thought the other really interesting point you made was on the role of banks and other financial firms in engaging with their clients and supporting them on their own pathways and journeys to transition, right? Because it's a guiding role, isn't it?
Yes, this is, Sonia, that's the key. This is why we have big information. And we are gathering different segment of clients, different products, so many, and also international world. This is why I think the bank's role to make this change is, to make this transition is the key. And if you look at for example, Garanti BBVA, we have almost 20 million customers, of which, of course, we have the corporate customer, commercial customer, SME customer, and retail customer. If we will be able to change something in their life, in their behavior, and with the products that we are financing, I think there we will be able to create the value. This is how we are seeing. And of course, it's not easy, because it's a transition. Previously, the banks and also most of the business world was looking as the macro, micro, macro, whatever, how the international markets, global markets, and the technical sides of the project. Now, we have started to look at it, the sustainability, the future of business, the future of our clients, how they are heading up, what kind of actions they need to take, and how we can facilitate it. I think the bank's role is much more important than before, and the banks should be increasing their awareness about it, because even with one project financing they are doing, or one very small green mortgage that they are financing, they can change the world. If I say I'm going to provide you financing for green mortgage with a better firms, with more favorable interest rates to you, then the customer say, okay, what is green mortgage? I would say, yes, you have to go to the house and look the energy efficiency, and if it is, let's say, the A+, then you will be able to benefit from that. And they say, oh, okay, then I should be buying a house which has that energy efficiency. And then it is also, then they go and talk to their friends, and they say, Garanti Bank has provided me a very favorable interest rates because of I bought a house like that, and then they go to the contractor and say, you know, I need to buy that kind of house. And then the contractor goes, okay, then I should be building a house which is also energy efficient. This all has a
ripple
big
effect,
change.
isn't
It's
it?
it's
Yeah.
a really ripple effect. And this is why we have started as Garanti BBVA to look everything in segments. It's not only previously we were mainly focusing on the big corporate financing, project financing, because there the impact is higher. But here the impact might be smaller, but there are so many different counterparties. If you add up all together, maybe the impact is similar. This is why we have in our bank 4 different business lines, and each business line, they have their own target. They have their own KPI. They need to know that they have to lend for sustainable finance, for energy, for climate change, for social part, gender equality. For example, gender equality. We have a loan, 16 years ago, we had the first initiative for women entrepreneurs in Turkey. The women entrepreneurs, I think it is very important. We were the first bank who has specified that segment as women entrepreneurs. Because previously, if you don't specify them, then you are going to provide all products for everybody. But they need different approach. They need to have education. They need to have networking. They need to be able to access to the bank. First time when we had this, the application, we had I don't know, yarış, the race. It's not a race actually. Competition. We had a competition, and we were having the applications from the women entrepreneurs. The number of the applicants were so low. Let's say it was for the initial days probably 30, 40. And of course, because we do have network in many parts of the world, of Turkey, in different regions, southeast region, the west part, east part, we were trying for them to reach these clients and tell them they should be somehow making these applications. That time it was difficult. And then this year, it was very difficult for us to eliminate the application because the number has been somehow somehow reached so big numbers. And we have started to classify them to different segments. And even with that, you can create something for your customers. That's why I think the banks first needs to first specify and then target different segments and put the targets for business line to be able to reach their targets in order to grow. And the targets should be quite ambitious. If we don't put the ambitious target, we won't be able to create big improvements.
Well, I think, what you're saying about a tailored or almost a bespoke approach to this is fascinating, right? Because you have such a range, as you say, of different clients, very large, sophisticated, multinational firms on the one hand, and then small and medium-sized enterprises, your SMEs and your retail clients. So it's a lot of careful thought to be put in the approach for each one.
Yes. To understand the need of those clients is the key. And also, that is the success of the bank. They have to be close to their clients. They need to go, and also they need to follow up what's going on in the world. And inclusion. The woman gender equality is important that we are saying. Yes, we have started, for example, with gender equality for women entrepreneur to empower them, have inclusion. What is the percentage of women entrepreneurs in Turkey? Only 10%. We have almost about 1 million entrepreneurs. We have only 10% of women entrepreneurs. We should be able to increase that number. And also, in the woman part is important, and in Turkey, the women's being part of the business world is only 34%. In OECD countries, is around 58%. If we will be able to increase that number to the OECD level, then think about it, GDP per person in Turkey we will be able to increase it from 8,500 to 13,000. There will be 35% increase. Why not utilize it? But you have to, in order to mobilize them, you need to show them, you need to help them. We are trying to help for women entrepreneurs as well as company. I also give that big importance because, 2 years ago, we had the first gender loan has been launched in Turkey.
I remember that.
You
Yeah,
remember
we
that?
talked
It
about
was the
that,
first
yeah.
in the world. And we were saying, we are doing things for the SMEs or the women entrepreneurs. Why we should be doing in the corporate life? There are so many women are working in our, counterparties with our corporate clients, and their percentage is very limited. And also to participate on the top management, their percentage is even lower. And in order to increase it, in order for these companies to focus on more gender equality, we said that, okay, let's launch this gender loan. We have set 36 criteria. There are so many of them. Going back after maternity, having the paternity for the husband after their wife giving their birth, and also so many equal payments and equal the opportunities to have the promotion. And after that, if they are able to increase their number out of these 34 criteria, they were able to decrease their interest rate or their commissions. It's a kind of a tool in order to make them more willingful to take these actions. And you need to also have a CFO's commitment. I think in the companies, CFOs is the key. And the banks, when they are also part of it, you will be able to engage CFOs. And this is why I'm always saying that for that transformation, the bank's role is important because they will be able to reach the CFOs and they will be able to force somehow the companies and the borrowers to take these actions.
Well, it's interesting that you talk about the performance indicators, like the KPIs of such a gender loan or a green loan or whatever it is. I mean, it's an important part of our journey, right? In order to be able to grow sustainable finance markets, you've got to be able to understand the impact that you're having.
Exactly.
So it's a very good point that
Exactly.
you make here. But maybe if I could turn to Garanti's sustainability vision. You've set this out. How does it sit within the core values of Garanti, and how does it, enable financing opportunities? It's such a ambitious plan.
Yeah, I think we are lucky. We really have an ambitious plan for the last 15 years. Every year, how we have started sustainability, as I said, with a project, but we put the target so high. That day, we had the ambition to become carbon neutral. Even today, so limited number of companies are talking about the being carbon neutral. We put the agenda so high to be able to reach it. And then I'm so happy that we were able to reach that target after 13, 14 years. Last year, we become carbon neutral. 75% of our purchase of electricity we have done from the renewable projects. 75, it's a very strong number. We paid higher prices in order to become carbon neutral. And then for the remaining part, we bought carbon certificates. And we were the first bank, probably first institution in Turkey who has become carbon neutral. This has become always with the ambitious targets. And I do feel that we as a bank has that potential. And this is why I'm trying to talk so many places to make the other institutions also so ambitious about certain things. Of course, it's not coming, well, you cannot create it just only by saying. You have to have it with your organization. And we are so many things. We are trying to understand next generation, especially now. We have to listen to them. They are so different than us. They are the Z generation. There has been some polls in Turkey, and they are saying that they are ready to pay 10% more for a product if it is sustainable, if it is in line with their expectation in life. We are listening to them. We are saying that we are being sensitive. Listening is important. Not many people are listening to each other. While we are talking, at that time even we are hearing ourselves, not the one that we are talking to. But for the next coming years, we have to definitely listen. And when you listen your clients, you will be able to find a solution with their expectation, with their needs. I think
smart
that's
to focus on the next generation of clients, right?
Yes, that is it. And stakeholder communication. Communication is important. Listen and communicate. It's not just we do whatever we say. It's not that. We have to have stakeholder, the government, the universities, the other banks, your clients, everybody, your employees. You have to listen your employees. What do they want? Where do you see their organization? And if you start to listen them, you are taking your path accordingly, and then the satisfaction among your parties are also increasing. You have to be visionary. The bank has been visionary. I do remember when I first joined the bank, it was 23 years ago. That time our CEO, he had a target to be the best bank in Europe. We were a small bank, and I don't know any of you remember because it's a very young generation is here. But that time have that vision was important, and we had that vision as well, as I said, being carbon neutral. And being science-based. Science is important. You cannot just talk. You have to rely your data, your actions to science. And if you can do it, and if you can prove it, then it will be easier to convince people. You know, I'm an engineer, and as an engineer, I want to see always the number. Whenever my colleagues prepare something, I question it, and somehow we are trying to find something together. If you don't question and believe it without questioning, then you won't be able to get somewhere.
Well, the metrics are critical, right? I mean, we have to be able to measure.
Especially now, the metrics are scary for us. And it's for the climate change. And if you look at now what we are saying and what we are delivering, I'm getting a little bit concerned. I'm getting concerned about the way that we are heading to. Unfortunately, 6 years ago, as we said, we have decided on certain things, but what we have, the actions that has been taken by the governments is not enough. And then we cannot get the return back. And if we have started this year in Turkey, I don't know how much you were able to follow up. We had so many fires. We had also some floods. We had the climate is changing, and we cannot resist that. This is why I do give big importance for these meetings. As an engineer, again, I want to see numbers, and the numbers should not be targeting 10 years later, 30 years later. We should target tomorrow. In the bank, we have a target for every year, even for every year, but every quarter we are revising it. And this should be also managed that way.
Well, you know, I think what you're describing is something that you feel in the very air here in COP when you talk about the financial sector. The way in which the financial sector does its business is just changing out of all recognition. It's not enough simply to provide finance on attractive terms. There has to be environmental, social governance considerations as an integral part of all the financing that the financial sector is doing in their own country and around the world. So I think what you're describing, that's in the air here.
I totally agree. And but the pace is still not there.
Very true. You know, for example, I'll give you an example from some of the research that we do at the IIF. We look at the development of green bond markets, blue bonds, sustainability-linked bonds, green loans, green mortgages, all these types of products and services that are developing. If you add them all up, you come to about $3 billion US dollars. You know, so it's not a huge amount.
No.
In the scale of all global markets, bonds and loans, it's less than 1%.
Yeah.
So it's both, as you say, we need to move faster, we need to move more at scale, but that's also a tremendous opportunity, right? I mean, look at the opportunities for the growth of this market. It's tremendous.
Yeah, that is really important. But, you know, sometimes I get a little bit confused because some people are somehow doing it for the sake of doing it. It's not they believe. You should internalize that. And if you don't do it, and if you do it just for the sake of doing it, then you won't be able to successful. And on the other side, taxonomy. Taxonomy is so important. If you have to be sure that the product that you are launching is in line with this taxonomy, and it should be universal taxonomy. It should not be something for Europe but not Turkey. This is why I think the countries should be focusing to create as soon as the taxonomy, and also it should be in line with the universal, the European. I really also I do have a very positive view about what Europe is doing. They have they have a strategy. Actually, they put the target. And then in order to reach the target, they prepared their strategy. And with that strategy, they put their focus, where they are going to have their focuses in the energy efficiency, circular economy, so many parts. And then they say, it's not only me. The ones who wants to sell product to me, they should be also align their strategy to my strategy.
Yeah.
Now the stick is there. If you won't be able to take action accordingly, then either you won't be able to sell there, or you will be selling there with a high tax. And you need to get ready that. I think for Turkey also, this will be a big anchor. And I do give the trade, especially on the foreign trade, we are going to take necessary actions in order to comply with that. The transition period is important. First, they are going to have 4 important sectors. I think in that part, our export is not that high, but still the remaining sectors should be also getting ready for that. We have started to see that, especially on the SME part. They are trying to learn what is necessary, what kind of actions they need to take. And also on the government part, and as also the banks, we are trying to give some training to our customers, and also for their new investment to comply with these new rules. And so we are going to provide, of course, the financing. Our role is to provide financing to them so that they will be able to continue to sell their business. And you remember, once we were talking, now the countries are competing with each other. And Turkey has a big potential. And we all want Turkey use that potential on the highest level. This is what we are aiming for. Why lose that train while it is passing by? And the importance being somehow acknowledged by our president, I think it's very important. And I do hear today that the organizations on the climate part, on the environmental part, is taking pace. And they are here attending and trying to get into contact with the private sector. We will be doing well. We had a great years starting from 2003 to 2010. I was lucky to live that time. I was head of the project finance in Turkey. We have tremendous pipeline for project financing, and we finance it. And when you see it, the potential, the way that the Turks are approaching to these investment to facilitate all these the way to that realize these investment, I think now we will be coming to that part as well, and of course that will be differentiating us from our competitors.
Well, you mentioned this sort of education and capacity building that you're doing with your clients. I was thinking about what you were saying about policies in Europe, the European taxonomy, the carbon border adjustment mechanism, all of these that can have such an influence on how you do business with the European countries, where you have such a strong relationship with Turkey. But I mean, it's really almost a full-time job for you and your entire staff just to keep up with everything that Europe is doing, no?
Yes, that's true. There is so much, we were just talking, so much information is coming. Let's say I have last week a speech, and then the information in that speech is old now. You receive a new speech, and then you need to somehow know something else. And I do give big importance because it's my favorite subject, and I want to talk about the renewables. Renewables in Turkey for the last 15 years. We have also done so good new investment in renewables. We have almost 50% of the installed capacity in renewables in Turkey. On the generation part, it's around 40%. I think among our competition markets, we have delivered really good investment in that sense. And most of these investments have been financed by local banks. We have provided almost $70 to $80 billion for new investments in Turkey for renewables. And we had made also a very small calculation regarding how, existing 30% of installed capacity in Turkey is from coal-fired projects. And coal-fired projects in time, we are going to divest that. It has to be divested if we are talking about the carbon emissions and so, in order to replace them for renewable assets, renewable projects, the needs is around $70 to $80 billion new investment is needed.
It's
for
not cheap. Moving to not the technology.
The
and
technology.
All of that is still very costly.
The only good thing is the cost of investment for renewables is so much lower than we did before. 15 years ago, we were talking about 6 cents per kilowatt hour. Now it is 2 to 3 cents. They were not able to compete with the thermal power plants because their cost was so low. But right now, they are so much more competitive because now the gas prices, we have seen very recently, last month, the gas prices are rising. The coal prices, they were buying the coal for $70. We have seen one of our client, unfortunately, the project that we have financed before, we are still financier there, they are buying with $200. They cannot, generate electricity, not anymore, because they cannot compete with the market. And in the near future, they won't be able to compete with the renewables. This is why, and also banks have decided, in March, we have announced that we are not going to finance any coal fire. Actually, it's a publicly commitment. Actually, in 2016, since 2015, we haven't financed anything. But we didn't have the commitment. It was within our organization, and we didn't speak up so loudly. Now we are speaking up loudly and saying that we are not going to finance. In addition to that, we say by 2040, we are not going to have any coal asset in our balance sheet. So we are going to divest all the investment that we have financed before. And from now on, we are not going to give any penny, even for their working capital needs, to any coal-fired generation companies or related.
It's a big statement.
It's a big statement, and especially in Turkey to make it, because it's not that easy. But I'm happy to see that after us, another bank has also announced that they will be also having similar commitment. And of course, what is going to affect this? Electricity prices. In the near future, I do have concern about the electricity prices. Because you remember in Turkey it was around 4 cent, 4.5 cent last year. But now with the gas prices rising, coal prices rising, and people don't want to buy from them. Where are they going to heading up? They will be going to renewables. So the renewables are coming. Okay, come to me. I'm going to sell you, but it will be a little bit more expensive. Or you are going to buy from the coal fire, and you need to buy certificate, carbon certificate. It's also another thing that we have to definitely focus on. The market is increasing, and yes, for especially local in Turkey, still it has to develop. Our team, especially on the global markets, have started to look at it, but it might be taking shorter time than we have projected before. I think next year or the year after, we are going to see much higher prices in the carbon certificates as well, and this will be having impact on the production cost and inflation.
Yes, yes. Well, what you're describing is at the very core of a just transition for emerging markets, right?
Yeah.
By bringing down the cost of renewables relative to polluting alternatives, that's where you're really making a difference. It has to happen in order for there to be a just transition, especially in emerging markets, which are much more reliant, generally speaking, on fossil fuels.
Yes.
So it's a great point you're making. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about local market development in Turkey, some of the new products that you're looking at, and maybe a little bit about partnering. You mentioned with the SDG there, with the multilateral development banks. Give us some examples.
Yes,
of the
sure.
work you're doing.
Multilateral has a big importance in Turkish market, financial market especially, because we started to get focus on with them. Because, as the banks, we have the highest borrowings. And in order, of course, the international borrowings are decreasing, but still, we have started to learn sustainability with our corporation together with them. First, green bond issuance we had with one of these, EBRD and IFC. And we are sustainable bond as well. They do have big knowledge, and to be able to reach that knowledge and their experience in other markets and other counterparties is adding big value to us. And even while talking with them, we just create another product to be able to serve to our clients. We are not just taking from them and just doing with them. No, we are also reflecting that to our clients. And of course, for SMEs, we had important schemes that we have borrowed them. And for energy efficiencies, we were able to lend to our SME clients. And while you are lending them, of course, you are putting your KPIs, because they give the KPIs to you, and they say you have to reflect these KPIs to your clients. And we started to learn with them afterwards, and we said that, okay, if our clients are able to meet these criteria with these loans, then they should be able to also to meet these criteria when we are lending to them as well. Now and then, of course, our product base has also get bigger and bigger. Today, we are providing 43 products to our clients for sustainable finance. As I said, gender loan, energy efficiency, green loan, green auto loan, rooftop solar panel for retail. It's like the shopping loan. It is really interesting. You go to a small shop and you say that, okay, I want to have on my rooftop the solar panel. Will you be able to lend me for this product? In around 30-40 minutes, the loan is ready,
Wow.
and then you give somehow contract to the contractor, and then it will be somehow constructed to your rooftop. These are so many innovative products, and we have also certain things for the, in Turkey this year, I don't know whether you will be able to follow up, the Marmara Sea and the Bosphorus, we had a mucilage. It's a very dirty bacteria which was spread out all the Marmara Sea. And of course, there to clean up the processes, especially from the industries, was very important. We have provided some loan types for these customers in order to make these investments, not to make the sea so much dirty. Of course, it's not enough. Unfortunately, I think the regulator is the key in that sense, because they know that they are making the sea dirty, and also sometimes the regulator knows it as well, or who are somehow going and checking them, but they are not sharing it. In that sense, to be able to make the necessary monitoring and announcing who is doing what is important. People should be ashamed of what they are doing, and public should know about it.
More
The
transparency, right?
Yes, the transparency is the key.
Yeah.
And then if if they see that they will be somehow being the bad reputation for them, then they won't be doing certain things. This is why we are trying also financing for these type of companies. And also we had with Turmepa, we had a stakeholder, as we were saying, that stakeholder engagement is important. This year we are working together with them. They have 2 boats cleaning Marmara Sea. We became their sponsor. And also we are giving in 7 different cities education trainings to the people how to not to dirty the sea and have the right system. And every day we are trying to create it. The key is all team members in each different segment is trying to see things from their angle, from their responsibility. And this is how we are trying to achieve all these things.
Yeah. Do we have time for one more question, or do we need to wrap? Or
Yes, sure. I
Okay.
think the gentleman has a question.
yes.
Thank you very much. The training you're doing is fascinating, because I think activating knowledge, and especially in SMEs, is critically important. Are you doing any specific training with SMEs on carbon accounting principles so they can start to track scope 1, 2 emissions?
Yes. Actually, it is. We haven't started yet. It is very important, especially for the ones who are exporting to EU. So, because it's going to have an impact on their businesses, they need to get ready for that. Our trainings, they do have different modules. We have just started from the A. First, you have to give the education so that they will be able to understand the whole concept. And then you should be continuing with the second one, depending on the sector where they are. But this is also in our pipeline. Another important thing is we are going to have an application for our retail customers to be able to calculate their carbon emissions with the purchases that they have, with the invoices for the electricity, for the natural gas and other stuff. So we are trying to bring that, but I think to be able to measure carbon print for individual, for SME, to be able to have that knowledge is the key in the coming days. Thanks. Okay, if no, any other question?
If not, I have one last one for
Okay,
you.
sure.
And this is just about COP.
Yeah.
What have you been, in your time here, what types of things have you been seeing? What have you been hearing? What are your perspectives and maybe your hopes for outcomes?
I'm always hopeful about COP. So as I was in the Paris, and now I'm again, because this time I see that the countries have started to take it more serious. And then they have seen the performance for the last 5 years and what kind of other actions they need to take for the coming 5 years. And starting from, as we were talking, the short-term targets, put it more firmer is really important. I do give very much importance for the coal pact.
Yeah.
So the countries are saying that they are going to divest coal is so important for all countries. I think the number of countries who are going to sign up for that should increase immediately. And also innovation. Innovation is, I wasn't able to attend that, but I've heard from my colleagues for the hydrogen.
Yeah.
The potential of hydrogen, we need to understand. It is something that maybe we should be able to replace coal immediately with hydrogen. What kind of investment it has to be taken, and what is the potential, and also maybe still carbon capture technologies. This is, we were talking about so many years, but I really don't understand why some of these sources, funds, are not being diverted to make these innovation, to make it scalable. It's really tough to understand, but I started also be more hopeful about that as well. And actually, it's not about COP in general, but it's good to see that we are coming back to normal after COVID. So 2 years later, to be able to meet in person,
Cheers.
yes, exactly, to cheer, to have all these, I think it has a big value because we were talking with partnerships we are creating certain things, and this is also learning from each other, hearing from each other, having all those inspiration. I do give so much importance to inspiration, and whenever I come here, whenever I hear speakers, different views, I do come and somehow treat, okay, why don't we do this? Why we are not being part of these index? We need to target that. I forgot to mention it. We are becoming, we are as Garanti BBVA in many indexes. In Dow Jones Sustainability Index, Bloomberg Gender Equality Index, whatever you can call, we try to somehow get ready for these indexes because these are anchors for us. We are taking our actions accordingly, and then it also helps us to develop in our way to become better and better every day. And here today I've heard 2 more indexes. The team will be getting for that as well. And also lately the IFRS.
Yes, of
that's
course.
also a big importance. I have to definitely mention it as well. We will be getting for that as well.
Fantastic. Well, speaking of inspiration, I think you've provided us all with a great deal of it today. So, Ebru, thank you so much. It was a great conversation. It's wonderful to be here with you.
Thank you so much, Sonia.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Teşekkürler.